Hutcheson. I'm the president of CFRI, and I have a jacket on. That doesn't really ever happen in Florida. How about you? I don't even own a big coat anymore. Can you believe that? So this is nice weather. I'd like to welcome you to the December meeting of CFRI. We're glad you're here. Hopefully someday, very soon in the future, we'll be able to meet in real life. But we welcome you anyway. This is our December general meeting. There's the first screen. If you have any questions, you can always call Buffy at 407-328-7773, and she can usually help you right away. Okay, next screen, please. Okay. Whoop.
I know.
So you can see CFRI is a not-for-profit business association dedicated to promoting ethical real estate investing, to protect and promote the best interests of our membership through educational network opportunities, as well as community, legislative, and public relations. Disclaimer, you can read that for yourself. It's on our website. Basically, take your own actions. Make sure you don't listen to anybody just because they're in CFRI. Consult your own legal, tax, and real estate investment advice. And we're not liable for any actions as a result of the communications from this group. So this is something we just recently added. Just some Zoom etiquette, because we're having a little bit of problems with some things that are going on and people just don't realize what's happening. So if you could take a second, and I'm going to read through this. Just reduce your background noise, mute yourself when you're not talking. If you're not this particular meeting, but other meetings, make sure your microphone can pick up around you. So avoid areas and activities that create additional noise when your microphone is active. Distractions, prepare for remote meetings, by turning off other or closing programs to avoid pop-ups and other notifications, and turn your cell phone off. Test it first. Be prepared for classes and meetings by testing your connection. Make sure you know how to use the controls. Next, please, Miss Buffy. Don't eat or do other private things, especially on camera, just so it can be distracting to the speaker. So try not to do that, please. Advertising, you must be a CFRI member and control the property in order to advertise the property. Having a listing does not constitute control. So that's if you're trying to wholesale something. Don't wholesale something that you don't have under contract. Businesses, only business members may advertise their business. This includes using a Zoom background and how your participant name is shown on Zoom. If you're a business member, you're welcome to do it. You may not promote non-CFRI related real estate investing events without written permission for CFRI executive director. So if you can, just please try to follow those rules, and that would help us a lot. So thank you very much. Okay, the best way to get with the program as far as CFRI Online is through CFRI's members only Facebook group. We do have YouTube, which we show the deals of the month from the previous meetings. We'd have a CFRI Online. We have Meetup and Twitter, but most people use the CFRI members only Facebook page. If you want to communicate with other members, you want to ask questions, you want to answer other people's questions, that's the best place to go. We are a proud chapter of the National RIA. It's an organization of other RIAs across the country, and we're what's called a chapter. So that allows us to save you money from Home Depot and all the other kind of stuff. So we're a proud member since 1989. So there are some of the discounts that you automatically receive as a member of CFRI. The biggest one being Home Depot. You get a 2% rebate on any purchases if you have a connected credit card or checking account every 6 months when you do over $5,000. We have massive discounts with Budget and Avis, and the printing at Office Depot and Office Mac. You can save a lot of money. I get the discount on Constant Contact, And I know some people use the call fire and get the discount as well. So check the CFRI members only resource page to see what kind of discounts you can get. Next, please. There's the code that you need to sign up for Home Depot discount, NREIA. You get 2% back, like I said. Office Depot, to get the printing discount, you got to text CFRI card to that number you see there, 884-446-6358. Again, text CFRI card to 884-446-6358. My last bill went from $52 to $22. They have really good prices on printing. Other resources, you can always check out CFRI.net. We have our business member directory. So if you're looking for a plumber or somebody to do your website, all kind of different things related to a wholesaler, to the real estate industry, we have a business member most likely who does it, and we'd appreciate you patronizing them. Right now, if you're not a member, we're offering a $25 discount right now during COVID. When you go to sign up, you just use promo code FALL25 and you'll get $25 off your dues. So make sure you do that if you're interested in joining us, and we hope you will. Make sure that if you don't know it, we've got a pretty dang good podcast. Dave Dostal and myself are the interviews of the podcast, and those are just a few of the members we've interviewed so far. We like to introduce you to membership, and we do a deep dive. It's basically a deep dive like the member spotlight. So you learn a lot about them and what they're doing and how they're doing, and it's a good interview. You can get it on Spotify, Google, Stitcher, or Apple. Anywhere you get podcasts, we're available. So when you're on your walk, listen to and learn about your fellow members. We do Deal of the Month on almost every meeting. And if you'd like to participate in the Deal of the Month, the best way to do that is to email president@cfri.net and or vice president@cfri.net and tell us a little bit about your deal. And we'd love to have you participate. It's a great way to meet other people, and you actually get a Home Depot card. So that's a beautiful thing. Speaking of Deal of the Month, our next Deal of the Month is a longtime member, Mr. Hunter Paschall. Hunter, are you there? Buffy, is he there?
Yeah, he's here. He doesn't have his sound on. He doesn't have his mic on. There you go, Hunter. You're good.
I thought you controlled it all, Buffy.
No, I wish I could.
Welcome.
Sorry about that. Hey, Todd, thanks for inviting me.
Hunter is in the big city of South Carolina, big state of South Carolina. I guess you're on vacation up there, Hunter?
Yes, the wife and I took a few days off. We left Friday. We'll be back Friday up here in Hilton Head.
Awesome. So this is a deal. Hunter is a short sale expert, and because it is my belief that short sales are going to be a great way to buy properties in the next 3 years, I wanted to have Hunter on and go through a little deal if he did on a short sale. So this is one at 2615 Bass Lake Boulevard in Orlando. So go to the next screen if you would, Buffy. So that was a beautiful place, right, Hunter?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've probably seen the picture or may not have seen the picture once or twice. Yeah, that was the condition of the home at the time of purchase. Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Next one, Buffy. That's a porch. Okay. So it was a 3.2, 1,100 square feet, built in 1974. How did you find the deal, Hunter?
Actually, one of my partners found this deal. And I apologize. I had the information, all the information I thought in my email, but I'm going to go by memory. And the memory is contacting the homeowner by marketing direct mail with the yellow letter campaign, and then the person contacted our partner.
Okay. And so when the person contacts them, when do you get involved?
So basically, when our partner gets in contact with them, we get involved when they need the negotiation part with the banks. We have a negotiating service that we provide for partners, and we get involved once a contract is committed between a seller and a buyer.
Okay. So briefly give us your definition of what a short sale is, please, Hunter.
Okay, so a short sale is basically created from when a seller of a property or homeowner of a property has a mortgage that is higher than what the value of the property may bring. And this, I mean, if you're seeing this particular property is exactly a perfect example of some of the stuff that's out there. And it's unfortunate because this is VA, but a short sale is the process of negotiating the debt away for the homeowner for free, negotiating that debt for the homeowner for free with the bank to get the bank to accept a reasonable amount of a price for a purchase where somebody else can buy the property in the as-is condition.
Okay. So when you put it under contract, do you 100% of the time put it in the MLS so that it goes on the market?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're just the buyer, correct?
Well, the
Most
partner
of
may
the
be a
time?
buyer. Yeah. So not me, but it depends on, most of the times I'll be a buyer on a lot of these. Yes.
Okay. And is a short sale a good purchase for somebody rehabbing rentals? Is there a particular method that short sale works best for as far as investing, or is it good for anything?
So do you mean like when you're buying them, when you're,
Yeah, if you're a landlord, if you want to keep properties, is it good for that? Or if you want to flip or
yeah,
wholesale? So can you do anything with a short sale, in other words?
yeah. So with a property or short sale, yeah, you have other options, a lot of opportunities or options with it. And one of them would be, keeping the property as a landlord, wholesaling the property. And this particular deal here was a wholesale.
Okay.
So this is one that was in, such disrepair that it wasn't worth the team to repair it. We came to an agreement. It wasn't worth the team to repair it. So we didn't do that. But so there's multiple exit strategies in the short sale, realm.
Okay.
So-
Can you go to the next slide, please, Buffy? Okay. So as a 3.2, 1,100 square feet, built in 74, your purchase price, that was the price that was negotiated, was 108,681 from the bank?
Correct.
Okay. Does that include realtor fees?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and they sent me the information. I don't want to tell you yes or no, but cleanup expenses. So the purchase at 108, I'm not, usually we go by net numbers.
Right.
So to be honest with you, I can't answer that question because I don't know what it was purchased for, because I don't have those numbers, because I wasn't 100% involved in this. This is one of my deals in the office.
Well,
So
the bigger question is, can you charge a commission when you're doing a short sale?
definitely, you can charge a commission, you can charge negotiation fee if the bank will pay it, whatever you can get from the lender while
Okay.
you're negotiating. Because different lenders, different, different areas, the lender themselves, it depends on who has it. If it's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or if it's a private investment, or if it's an investment firm, they have different people who can make different decisions on that.
What's a normal negotiation fee that they'll allow on the HUD?
So particularly like for an attorney or a consulting company or something like that, which we ask for, it's typically $2,500, which is not enough to do it, in my eyes, because of the time you have to put into it, what you have to do to get the price, to get all sides to agree to everything and line everything up.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one of the profit centers, and again, that you can get from a lender.
So that brings a great point. How long did it take from the time that you signed this contract till the time the bank agreed to the price?
There's another one of those questions I don't have the answers to that she's given me.
Okay. What's a
Yeah.
normal time frame then?
So a normal time a seller signs, depending on condition. This is the condition of this one. This deal took a little while because of the condition. So it's a catch-22 on some of these with the lender, because they're saying, hey, the property values are worth a lot. I mean, I know I was kind of scared to purchase the property because we funded the thing. So I was kind of afraid to fund it because of the condition it was in and the market value. So you have to really look at everything and look at every different angle. So, that's what,
When you say fund it, what do you mean by that? So you
Well-
actually purchased the property and resold it?
right. So this property was purchased after negotiated, and every property that we negotiate with on a short sale is funded when we buy them. I mean, we buy them, we purchase them, so we take them down. So that's the purchase price. Again, that 108 is probably, I'm thinking, is the net amount. So
And
So
all
there
you
was-
did was clean it up.
yeah, basically cleaned it up. Really didn't do a whole lot to it, to be honest with you. Matter of fact, it was just, I think they helped the VA, the people living in the home. We helped the people relocate because of the condition of the home. The condition of the home was really unlivable. It had some other code stuff on it, I think. Some stuff needed to be cleaned up, but we didn't get involved in that. I think we gave that on to the next buyer.
And how did you go about selling it? Did you put it back in the MLS or did you send it out to your buyers list?
No, so on this particular deal, we didn't put it back on MLS. We just marketed it with signs and marketing and people that were, watching it. And one of the things that you should do or can do is when you're buying your properties, when you're negotiating your properties, if you're doing a negotiation or if you hire our team, one of the things to do is to look around while you're in that process, that 3 to 6 months, that timeline we're talking, that I was going to say that, it took to negotiate from the contract to negotiate is 3 to 6 months was the question you were asking me. I apologize about that, but that timeline, we look around and see who's buying real estate, what they pay for it, what are the investors buying? Because we're trying to buy these on, the low side. So that's comparables that the bank's going to use. That's what they should use. They should use apples to apples. And that's what our goal is for the bank, to look at the property and the condition it really is in, not what they think it's in. So you should know who's buying property. So what we would do, we would contact those cash buyers and say, hey, we have another property that's like one you bought at the price that you can buy it at. And that's what they did. So our partners actually marketed for this. I didn't personally, but we funded the transaction for them. They found buyers. We actually had buyers ready to buy the property before we even purchased it. So that's a pretty neat thing to do too, is to have buyers ready, because we weren't marketing the property itself at that time. We were saying, hey, here's a property is going to come available. But after we got control of the property, that's when we went, we said, okay, now we can start talking contracts.
Okay. And if you had to use your best judgment, what percentage discount do you typically get if there's such an animal? What kind of discount can we expect to get from a bank on a short sale when it's in disrepair?
So when it's in disrepair, again, it's going to be who backed the deal, what investor backed, the product, the mortgage from the origination or from when it's back now. You can get, we know there's, different lenders, different, Fannie Mae, Freddie, or whoever it is, they'll take a percentage, 15% off the value of a property, 20% off the value of a property when they get to the value. But when you got property like this particular deal that was in such bad repair, it needed a lot of work. Yeah, I think it should be a tore down. We sold it for $157,000. So I was astonished by that, but that was because we had the buyers. But as far as what the lenders will give, every deal's, different. There's no cookie cutter system in the short sale world, not in our investor side of the world. There's no really cookie cutter, because we're trying to look at every angle of the transaction, whatever negative we can find. That's going to be something we're going to have to disclose when we sell. We want to make sure we get the best number from the lender in the beginning, the value, making them see that this is the value that the property is worth in the as-is condition and the situation that it's in.
So
Yeah.
in your opinion, is when you're counseling the sellers, is it better for you when the seller stays in the home or if it's vacant?
Depends on the seller's needs. We try to accommodate the seller because we want to leave the seller in a better place than where they were when they met us. So the answer to that is we let them know that it's easier to sell a house when it's vacant. But to be honest with you, we don't really know, Todd, until the bank decides what they're going to let it go for, or what our exit strategy is going to be. So we don't want to disrupt the seller. In this case, I think the seller should have been out a long time ago because it was a horrible place, the condition. But we want to make sure that the seller's needs are met through, life experiences or whatever's going on in their lives. So we let them know, but we also, you can stay here, you can be here while we're working on the negotiations, the process and all, but just know that you need to start looking for a place to relocate, because that's the whole main goal, is to get rid of your debt and relocate yourself. But, this is COVID times, and it's been really, really crazy and interesting and challenging, and a lot of different, we're running into a lot of different situations now and a lot of different reasons. And I mean, at first we couldn't get into the houses, we couldn't talk to anybody. I mean, even in the rentals, it was really weird. But now it's loosened up a little bit. But we've done a lot of deals, since COVID. We've done a whole lot of deals since COVID. But so it's been interesting times at most.
What percentage of the time would you say that a bank pays the seller some amount of money?
So you're talking about exit money for a homeowner like this one, I believe. I don't know if we did or not. I would have sent up, we did here, but we didn't. It would have been on here. But usually it's a very small percentage now because of the, just the way it is. And and if they do pay, it's between $1,000 and $3,000. We used to pay homeowners $20,000 and $30,000 and $10,000 to do a short sale. That was back in 2008 when the other crisis. This isn't the same crisis, and not all of these short sales are from COVID crisis. That's not the reason. A lot of the properties that are in foreclosure today are from COVID. It's just they were already in foreclosure before COVID, year before, like this one. We started on in COVID, but so the percentage that the banks are given, I probably talk about a low percentage, like maybe 3%, 4% of the deal, maybe.
Okay.
4% of the time. It's very, very low because they're already taking such a beating, and they're saying, why should we give a homeowner money to take a property back at such a deep discount?
So I've always heard in the past that banks wouldn't, generally speaking, do a short sale unless the seller was at least 90 days behind. Is that still the case? And
now they have what's called a waterfall effect, the lenders. So the new process, new policies and procedures, typically nationally, are to try to do whatever they can for the homeowner and the effect of loan modification, all the new stuff that they got coming out, that they always want to try to loan mod or extend the loan period, and the lenders have to do that all the way up to the period of a foreclosure, and almost, and it's crazy. But so that they have to do that process happens, and that's a unique thing that they've been doing now. Although they know it's going to go to a short sale and they're going to have to sell their property, that process still comes into play a lot.
okay. So what are the pitfalls, if you want to call it that, of dealing with the short sale process?
So the pitfalls would be homeowners not being serious with you up front, which a lot of times they're not, because they're afraid of the situation they're in and what's going to happen to their life. It's a big changing thing for their lives, a lot of different people. So it's fear, not being open and honest with your seller, telling them the process, the knowing the process, giving them answers that they need. So then they get scared. They don't tell you the truth. So then, so the communication, I think, needs to be open, and it's got to be low maintenance communication, meaning that you don't need multiple people involved. I think that's one of the pitfalls. People get too many people involved and think somebody's doing something they're not doing. So we keep a tight knot on that. Realtor, basically, maybe could be a challenge sometimes by not understanding why a home should be sold less than what the market may be bringing at the time that it's less. I mean, that, and we don't usually deal with realtors up front when we're doing these, because it has to be somebody that understands the process. So really the banks, the biggest thing maybe in now is going to be the bank understanding the true value of the property with what's going to be coming down the pipeline. I think that's going to be one of the biggest pitfalls, is because we've been in it before. We've been doing short sales for 25 years or better. So going through the ups and downs of the market, like everybody, everybody, not just short sale people, everybody going through the phase of the ups and downs, getting the banks to understand that, today's value the value is not going to be, tomorrow. 90 days down the road, when the market starts, falling a little bit, which we haven't seen yet, I'm still surprised that the market's is where it is with everything else that's going on. And it's like, we can't keep nothing. Everything we get, like this right here, this would never sell for this kind of money in any other market. This is crazy. So, that's one of the pitfalls, is just getting the banks to catch up with the market when it turns. And that's, and it's really not a pitfall. It's just a process, so I don't know.
Would you say this is a normal short sale deal, or higher or lower than a normal short sale deal?
This is a little on the higher side. I don't know. We get some deals that are, we're 27,000 is probably an average,
Okay.
across the board of doing deals. We've done a lot of deals this year. We've had some more than this and some less than this, and this is one that was easy after the decision of the value from the lender. The deal was done in 3 months, 90 days. So from the time the bank said, okay, we're ready to go or whatnot, I believe it was done within like 90 days. So it was pretty easy and painless, the real challenge is, I think, another pitfall maybe, is just not keep, staying in contact with your homeowner, the seller that's giving you the opportunity to do this.
And are you seeing any banks prohibiting how much you can resell the house for?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there is a payoff letter that comes from lenders on every short sale, and it's got the language in there that says the buyer can't sell the property for, a minimum time. It could be 30, 60, 90 days, depending on the lender. This particular one didn't have any of that language because of the condition of the property and all that. So it was an easy deal as far as that. We didn't have to hold them, but sometimes we buy them, we have to hold them for 90 days before we can make it. And the percentage is like 120%. I don't know the exact numbers, but we just abide by whatever those numbers are, as far as what needs to happen. So, if they say you can't sell the property for, make a profit of $20,000 or $30,000, which it's not that, it's higher than that. We just say, okay, so we hang on to the property and we just start marketing. We just don't sell it until after the 91-day period.
So how do you get around the fact that you're usually defined that you can't give the money to the seller outside of closing? Is there a way to get around that? And if so, what's the creative way to get around that?
I don't really like doing that, because once you start talking about giving the seller money, or the seller thinking about getting money, and in the short sale business, it's a tough business. I'm not here to tell you it's easy. We got a good system that works and flows, and it's a lot of work, but keeping the seller on board, because you got to give them money. I never tell a seller, and I never teach to tell a seller, hey, you're going to get money, because that's just, it's just, why would a seller work with us? I mean, because we're doing everything for free, but, I've heard in the past, you can buy stuff from sellers. I've done it in the past, many moons, but lately, it's giving a seller money outside of closing is illegal. It says it right in the payoff letter. If the sellers get any money that's not in this closing, it's not on this HUD, is illegal. They could overturn the short sale if they found out. Which, how do I know that they found out? You could buy something from them in the house. If there's something there. Usually, I didn't see anything in this house that was of any value that I could be able to give the guy any money or the person any money. You could have somebody else, give them money or a gift or something like that. You could do something creative. I mean, it just says in the payoff letter that the seller is not allowed to receive any money from this transaction. Right? So from after this transaction's over, it's over. So that's the way I see it. So if you want to do something after that, I guess you could do something after that,
So final question is, what percentage of the time do you get a deficiency judgment for the seller?
So,
and explain what that is to the people that don't.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So deficiency judgment is the difference between what is owed. Like, I would like to know what was owed on this property. I think it was a bunch more.
Let's say it was 150. They would have had a deficiency of 42,000.
Right. So the homeowner or somebody owes that difference between what is owed to the bank and what the property was purchased for. So that's a deficiency. So we never, ever allow any of our sellers to sign any kind of deficiency judgment. We've never done that. Meaning that we never tell them, okay, do the short sale, but the homeowner, you're responsible for the $42,000 or $40,000, whatever it is. We've never done that. So we're 100% on that. We market 98% because we have had somebody had a big 401k. We negotiated about $400,000 off a deal, off of 3 loans on one property. And the bank knew the seller had over $400,000 in their 401k, which they couldn't touch. It was their homeowner. It was their homestead property. It's a 401k. So the bank really knew they couldn't touch it, but they just brought up the fact that, they would like to get compensated for the difference. And so we brought it to the seller and told them that the lender would take, $25,000 to remove $357,000 worth of debt and no responsibilities. And they said, we'll do it. So, I mean, that happened. So, I mean, I asked the seller if they wanted to do it, and they were up, they were some high-end people, well-to-do people, and they made a business decision, said, yeah, that's a great idea. So that's a 2%, I might say, that we can't get it done. But I would never have a seller. I would never leave a seller with debt and me make a profit of $44,000. I just wouldn't do it.
You get the bank to waive the deficiency judgment.
Yeah, every time. Yeah, we get the bank to waive the deficiency judgment. Or if there was a judgment, like say on this one, the bank says, hey, we want $10,000 to make this go away. And I knew that we were going to make $44,000, then I would do the deal, pay the $10,000 and still do the deal. So I would pay the $10,000 for the homeowner, get rid of whatever the deficiency was. And that's rare. That's really rare. So the banks, 99% of the time waive the deficiencies. And again, for us, it's 100%. So it's some states like Indiana don't even have a deficiency. They can't even come after them for deficiencies. So we're national. So we need to know the laws in different states. So,
okay.
We want to, yeah. So,
well, Hunter, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, talk about short sales, how do they get in touch with you?
Again, I appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It's Consulting Group LLC. Our phone number is 407-772-2274. That's 407-772-2274. And speak with Heather and Michelle there, and they'll talk to you about whatever your questions are and need answered. Or you can find us on Facebook, Hunter Paschall. You can find me on Facebook anywhere, everywhere.
Well, put your phone number and email in the chat, Hunter. So if anybody wants
Okay.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, if you have any questions, to put it in the Q&A, not in the chat, but put it in the Q&A, please. If you have any questions, and then Todd will be looking at those periodically.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so the December meetings will be on Zoom. The board voted last week. Not all meetings will be meeting in December, so make sure you check CFRI.net, the calendar, to see if particular group or meeting that you like is indeed meeting. Okay, so our member spotlight this evening is Miss Mari Lynch. Welcome, Mari.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. That's a good picture, isn't it?
I can't quite get my lighting balance, but it's okay.
No, I meant the picture on the screen of you.
Oh, yeah, I'm not on the screen?
Yeah, you are.
Wait.
Yep. No, the picture that the people are seeing. Don't worry about it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mari. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bloomington, Illinois.
Okay. How long were you there?
I was there until I went to college in Illinois, and my senior year in college, I got snowed into my apartment on New Year's Eve. The only way out of the building was to slide out the window of the apartment on the second floor. So I had one of those, it's kind of like Scarlett O'Hara moments, like I will never be trapped again. So then I started moving, and I moved to Oregon, and I moved to Washington, I moved to California, and then I moved here for planning on being here about 2 years, and that was 30 years ago.
Okay. What did your parents do when you were little?
My dad worked for Shell Oil Company, and he owned a car wash.
Okay, awesome. And do you have any siblings?
I have 5 siblings. I have 4 brothers and a sister.
Okay. Any of them in the real estate business?
No.
You're the only one in the family.
Yeah.
Okay. And where did you go to college? You said it was Illinois, but where did you go?
I went to Northern Illinois University.
That's the Sahokis or something like that, right?
Huskies,
Husky. Okay.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Salukis, I thought it was, but maybe that's something else. And what did you major in college?
I was a business major with a minor in communications.
Okay. And what was your first job out of college?
I sold business forms for More Business Forms.
Did you really?
Yes.
I interviewed with More Business Forms, like for my first job out of college, but I went
You
to work.
didn't take it.
No, I went to work for Harlan check printers instead. So
Very, very close. Very close. Yeah. So that was it was like the very beginning, like pre the computer business really, but I dug the computer part of it. So I ended up going into high tech from there.
okay. So how long have you been in the real estate business?
Well, I've owned rental property it's been rented for about 25 years. So I've been a landlord for about 25 years, but I just went, all in, as Jeopardy James would say, about 2 years ago.
Okay. And what I failed to tell everybody at the start of the program is Mari is one of the new board members. So we're welcoming her on the board. So I wanted to have one of the new board members as a member spotlight since she's not been on the board before. So that's exciting. And are you full-time real estate person now?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And you're a landlord. Is that all you do, or do you do other forms of real estate as well?
So mostly just doing the buy and hold landlord thing. But I'm definitely going to a lot of the different meetings. I'm learning more about notes, learning more about, I don't think I'll ever be a flipper, because I'm just way too wussy. Like I don't, tough enough for the flip market, but you know, I'm definitely staying tuned to the short sale market.
Okay. And of all your rentals, do you have any that are not paying that you haven't been able to evict right now?
No, in fact, I had somebody move out early. They weren't supposed to move out till the end of January, and they said they moved out early, and I let them go. And so I had to find a renter December 1st, and this is a family type of property. And I was having a really hard time, but I followed some advice I got at CFRI, and I put an ad in the MLS, and I had a fabulous tenant sign a lease November 30th and move in on December 1st.
Did you get more than the previous tenant was paying?
Yeah, a lot more.
What was the raise you got?
It went from $1,250 to $1,400.
Really? Okay. And did you have to do anything in between the move in and move out?
I got some decorations from the dollar store and put them up around the place so it would look Christmassy. No, there was cleaning and some painting and, a
So
little
nothing-
spiffing up.
Nothing big.
Well, there was a big project that had kind of been left over that needed to be done. I redid the porch and redid some stuff, but that was already planned repairs that were going to be done. So I just did it while the place was empty.
Okay. And what do you like best about being a landlord?
Well, it is the first of the month. I have my little stamp right here that I stamp on the back of the checks. That's probably my favorite part, is using this thing,
Okay. And
making my deposits. I like that part.
what do you like the least about being a landlord?
I think just it comes with a certain amount of uncertainty. It's an agreeable amount of uncertainty. But it's not a lock and load type of proposition. Things can change on a dime.
Okay. And how did you find CFRI and how long have you been a member?
So I had to contact Buffy today to ask her this because I couldn't remember. And it was an ad on Facebook. So
Okay.
I don't even know what I was doing on Facebook that I was targeted for an ad, but it seemed like a good idea. And so I think I joined in like the summer of 2018, I think.
Okay. So it wasn't from a friend telling you about it. It was literally from an ad.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about it. And it just sounded like information I wanted to have.
And what's your favorite group? You said you go to a lot of groups. What's your favorite group of CFRI?
So I love my advanced investor group. It's always really interesting, and it's always really rolls in problem solving mode. Like somebody shows up and they're like, this is the situation. And these are experienced people, and yet there's some outrageously creative solutions that people come up with. And then sometimes it's just going back to basics. Like, have you looked at the pictures in your ad? And everybody's got their phones out and they're looking at the pictures going, these pictures suck. You need to redo these pictures. Like we should all know that our picture standards, but it just had kind of slipped notice. So something wasn't renting. So it's just a very helpful, very experienced group. I like that a lot.
Okay. And what advice would you give to a new investor that you think would be helpful to them?
Build a team.
Okay.
Build you're not going to be able to do everything. I had a meeting today with Jim Durr, who came out of this group, who is a very experienced CPA. It's like, use the experience of the group. It's
Who do you think should be on your team?
oh, well, for me, CPA, accountant, buyers and sellers, I guess, if you do more transactional stuff than I do. I like knowing a variety of realtors who know different people that sort of make things happen. Who else? Well, and then a whole team of plumbers and electricians and painters and people who fix things and people who will go out at night to fix things and people who will fix things on weekends. And you can't have too many good air conditioning guys.
Title company.
Oh, and then you only need one roofer though.
Yeah. What made you decide to run for the board?
Because I have learned that the people that give back are the smartest people in any organization.
Okay.
You stick with the winners, and the winners are the ones that are doing service.
That's a great answer. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate taking the time to tell us a little bit about yourself, and we look forward to seeing you at the next investors meeting. And
All right.
you'll
Thank
see
you.
her picture on the new board members come January.
Excellent. Thank you.
Have a great evening, Maury.
You too. Bye.
Okay, so Buffy has put up the meeting schedule for December, and you can see some of the things have been canceled and some of them are still on. It's about 50-50, I guess. And I thought Augie was meeting Buffy in December. Buffy, your mic's off.
He is. It's between Christmas and New Year's. It's right down here on the 28th.
Okay, I just couldn't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I said, about half the meetings are going to be there, half are not. But we hope you'll be able to find a meeting that you love and get some great information. And so make sure you go to like I said, the website and make sure something's not getting canceled because of COVID or something crazy. Okay, so with that, we're going to talk about planning tonight. And tonight we have with us, I'm going to call it a panel. I just got 3 people that I knew would talk, and so they would share their opinions. I am more than appreciative if anybody wants to answer a question that I've asked that the panelists didn't do. So Buffy, how did I do that? I'm going to be able to, if they want to raise their hand, I can do something to turn them on.
We haven't done that before. They can ask a question in Q&A and then you can repeat it.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest way, is to do the question in Q&A.
Okay. So tonight's panelist Phil Georges, who is another new board member. Turn on your mic for us, please, Phil, and say hello.
Hello, everyone.
David Pupo, another new board member. Say hello, David.
What's going on, everybody?
And then finally, not last but not least, Lynn Thompson.
Hello.
That is awesome. So this is our panel for tonight, and we're going to basically talk about planning, getting ready for the next year. So hold on, let me get my questions up. Okay, so let's start off with a general question. Where do y'all see the market going in 2021, specifically home prices and rent prices? And we're going to start with Phil, then David, then Lynn. So go ahead, Phil.
Well, I don't have any crystal ball, so anyone waiting for a crystal ball answer, you won't get one. But I think things are going to remain the same. I think you'll see some foreclosures come through on the single family side, just simply because people were already in trouble, and this might have just tipped them over the edge. And so I think those will start to shake out first or second quarter, where you start to see more foreclosures. And I think rent will be stable. I don't think there'll be much of an increase, but that's one man's opinion.
Okay. Why do you think it's going to stay the same? Do you have a reason why, or just that's your gut?
No, my gut more than anything else, just talking to people in the industry and realizing that rents did not dip at all during this crisis. And I had no problem filling vacancies during this crisis. So I think things will stay the same just because landlords won't be trying to push the envelope so soon. There's still that little bit of uncertainty. So I know I, for one, I haven't raised any rents at all, which is very unusual for me.
Okay. Are the Knicks going to play any good this year?
They're going to be the Knicks.
Okay. I guess that's enough.
Lifelong fan.
Hey,
Okay,
you gotta wear pride, man.
David, same question. Where do you think the market's going to be in 2021?
Yeah, right. Like I'm with Phil, man. Let me break out the crystal ball. I mean, we can only just go with what evidence that we've been presented, right? So I think we're also going to see a different change in a political movement from Donald to of course Joe. I'm very curious to see how that happens. I know we're about to hit the first wave of like when forbearances and people can have the opportunity to extend it, or are they going to go into foreclosure? I was reading something actually on the Florida Realtors. They had something that came out like the 25th, so like a week ago, that a number of Florida homes, I got it up right here, are behind on rent or a mortgage. It looks like about 51%. So I don't see how something is sustainable if they're showing more than half of the people are somehow behind in one way or another of payment. So I gotta say, I kind of think none of us really saw past this May, June timeframe to see everything kind of skyrocket the way that it did. I think, there has to be something that kind of deflates it. So I'm kind of thinking there's a couple factors.
David, can you put a link to that article? Because that's shocking news to me. 51% are late or rent or mortgages. That number.
Yeah, and so I'll put it here in the chat right here. And then I actually read another one about the Associated Press came out with one saying that as well. And they showed similar statistics, but they showed, of course, nationwide behind on rent. So I read that one too, and you can show like what states are in like good zones, like, in less than 20%, ones are in a little bit more intermediate, like 20 to 30, and then ones that are a little bit more in danger zones, like 35 to like Florida being the highest actually was 51. Most of them were in the 40s and 30s, some 20s.
I don't know how they could know the people were behind on their rent because nobody can file an eviction. So I wonder if it was a poll or what.
Apartments.com does a lot of polling of that kind of nature where they call landlords and find out the circumstances. And I didn't get a call on that one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that.
Okay, Lynn, you're up. Tell us your opinion for where the market is going in 2021.
Well, I think it's a toss-up because I think a lot of it is going to depend on if we get a stimulus package, if a moratorium gets extended. What I hope is that we can see the prices kind of leveling out a little bit. By some of the foreclosures or the people that have been behind, maybe that'll increase some inventory and kind of stabilize the market here a little bit. I think we kind of went up a little too fast. But the one thing I think that stuck with me is I listened to Charles Castellan about a month or two ago on some seminar he was doing, and he talked a lot about people from the last recession we had, people desperately trying to hold on to their homes before they would give in to a foreclosure. So while we have all these people behind in their mortgages, we may see that again. People and the banks definitely don't want a repeat of their last recession and kind of how they had to handle all their homes. So we might see a lot more cooperations from the banks, letting people stay in their homes and paying off all that debt. So we may not see an influx of so many foreclosures if everybody cooperates with everybody. So I don't know that we're going to see a huge downturn in pricing, but hopefully we'll be able to get a little more inventory so we don't see such high prices. Because I don't think Orlando can consistently stay this high. We just don't have the job market for it.
So Jim Gates said that was a poll, and if that's the case, if it was a poll, if it's accurate, that's going to be devastating, but I don't think that's accurate. I don't think it's that high. I think we would be hearing, because every landlord I talk to, nobody's got any tenants that are behind. So I don't see how, unless it's all just apartment complexes.
So I've had 2 tenants that had to go through the diversion program in Orange County. And one tenant got 3 months paid rent because both people lost their jobs in that household. And then I had one other tenant got 2 months rent paid. So I think it's just being propped up at some point right now. Some of us are getting paid. But if that money goes away, for example, if we don't get another stimulus package and the moratorium expires, we could see quite a few, could see quite a few evictions. But is that going to do anything to real estate pricing? I'm not sure.
Phil, do you have any delinquents, renters?
I do, but as you know, I got a lot of tenants though.
What percent do you think you have right now? Is it higher than normal percent delinquent?
Higher than normal? Not much higher than normal. Just uncomfortable that it is higher. It's more than normal, but
Okay.
it's not much. I would say, 2 to 3%, maybe 5% higher than normal.
Okay. So that's not a huge deal.
No.
Okay.
I also think a lot of homeowners have a lot more equity than they had, because I think a lot of us were around for the last market crash, and basically nobody had any equity, so nobody could sell. So everybody abandoned their properties, short sales. I think we're just going to come across something different this time. Someone who bought their house 7 or 8 years ago, they have equity in their house, so they may not need to do a foreclosure. They may be able to just sell and get out of it, which might bring down prices a little bit, but I don't think we're going to see a repeat of what we had.
Okay. Have any of the 3 of you changed anything that you're doing based on the year we've had? So are you changing anything, your plans for next year based on what you think might happen? Or is it business as usual? Go ahead. We'll start with you, David.
I wanted to actually tag a little bit quicker on that last question. I'm really curious to see what happens here in Orlando in particular, because we're really, really hospitality focused. And based off of what I'm kind of seeing with what hotels are kind of going through, there's going to be a lot of restructurings and a lot of layoffs and a lot of things going on still with a lot of the bigger hotels. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that and a lot of the tourism when it comes to Disney and Universal. Now, having said that, yes, I'm 100% always making sure that if we're hearing these kind of news or any kind of things that can completely change around what we're doing, I want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can. So I love that you brought on Hunter. Hunter is a great person to talk to about the short sales. I've been definitely making sure I'm consulting with any local real estate attorneys that do short sales. We've taken a lot more of an interest in creative financing to see how we can be able to get things still going in like a subject to format, owner financing formats, anything like that. But right now, if I'm telling you what's going on day to day, it's business as usual.
Okay. But are you planning for next year to be any different?
I think next year will be a lot different. I kind of think, honestly, we're in a bit of a, I wouldn't call it almost reality. It's kind of crazy. And Hunter brought up, I know exactly where that property is. It's kind of close to where I live, actually, ironically enough. And yeah, that's not crazy at all that they're going quick, but like for those kind of prices, it is kind of crazy. I think there is some kind of softening that happens. If not, I mean, I'm still going to be very beneficial, of course, if it doesn't. But I think you always have to kind of think about the risk aversity on the other side. If it doesn't do that, are you still doing your numbers the same way?
Okay. Phil?
The only thing I'd be doing differently is as I look and analyze deals, I'm going to hedge a little more because that's what the banks are doing as far as lending. You know,
What do you mean by that? The banks?
banks, you know, in the apartment building sector, they're asking for pretty large reserves. And being that they're asking for large reserves, you're going to have a lot more money in the deal. So I've got to, you know, look at the pricing so it makes sense. So I can't put as much money in a deal if I've got to have all this reserve.
So give
Yeah.
us an example of what you used to be able to get last year that you can't get now.
Before COVID, 3 to 6 months of reserve was normal. Now you hear, you know, I haven't bought anything in 2019, so, but now I've heard as much as 1 year to 2 years reserve. I'm
Wow.
talking to a bank that's going to do the perm loan on a construction project I did this year, and they were looking for 2 years reserve. Now we're like, there's no way that we're going to get our money out of here if we have to do that. You know what I mean? So if I'm buying something, I'm going to factor that in. Say, hey, I'm going to need more reserve, so my price may not be as nice as they want it to be.
Okay. Lynn, same question.
I'm not necessarily doing anything different. I tend to follow kind of my own set of rules as to how I buy a house, whether to be keep as a rental or a flip. I'm having a really hard time with the values right now. It makes it very difficult to buy something to keep as a rental because the prices are just ridiculously high. And they're so high, it makes it hard to flip. So I told you earlier, I'm a bit of more of an opportunist. And so if I find a deal that I like, then I'll snatch it up. But I'm just kind of waiting and, you know, waiting for something to come along. Now I'd have refinanced or in the process of refinancing all my rentals because I just got a 3.125 interest rate on 2 of my rentals.
Is that because you have a job? Because you're the only one of the 3, I think you have a job, correct?
Yeah, I have a full-time job. Yeah.
You think that you would have been able to do that if you didn't have a job?
I don't think so. But you know, I've never really, well, I did talk to one mortgage broker and said if I just, you know, wanted to refinance it, say in my LLC and not kind of in my own name, yeah, the interest rate was quite a bit higher.
Okay. Did they say what it would have been different?
Well, that was just before the rate drop. So my guess it'll probably be about 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So my interest rate is going from about 5.6 to 3.1 on 2 of my rentals.
Okay. Did any of you have any goals for this year that you weren't able to meet because of COVID? We'll start with you, Lynn, and then go to Phil, then David. I'm gonna go to
No,
Phil.
you know,
I'll be right back. Okay. So Lynn,
Okay.
then Phil, then David.
yeah. So I'm a, you know, part-time investor. I don't really set a lot of goals, frankly. Like I said, I'm opportunist. So I know what I like. I know what kind of rentals I want. And if I'm going to flip a house, I know what profit margin I want. And so I didn't really set any goals.
As for me, my goal is to finish my construction project. So in spite of COVID, we will get right under the wire and finish before December 31st. That was
Nice.
the only goal I had. And I think we're going to hit that target. We're, you know, just a couple of weeks away from getting our C of O and completing this 2-year-long journey that I was on.
Amen, man. That's awesome. I've been hearing about that project for quite some time, man. That's awesome.
Phil,
Yeah.
did you have trouble getting people to do work because of COVID?
No, actually, sadly to say, and you know, you and I talk, but sadly to say, COVID really helped us out a great deal because New York was shut down for a good portion of time. So a lot of people weren't allowed to work. So we were able to hire some of those people at lower prices, non-union labor, because New York is a union market, and you know, union labor is expensive. So we benefited from that. A couple of our tenants we have two bars that are in, our retail strip, and they had to close naturally. So one of them, we used all of their space for staging the construction and storing equipment and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of worked in our favor. And we had all the excuses of COVID, to the lender and to the Historic Society that we might not finish on time, and we're going to squeak under the wire.
Okay,
Yeah.
David?
Yeah, I would say that it did definitely delay some of the goals that I wanted to be able to do, because I do, since I run the wholesaling company, we want to think week in, week out, month in, month out, quarter in, quarter out. And of course, when COVID hit, that was going right into Q2, right? I remember it pretty well, like that second week of March, the world stopped, man, right? I came back from Savannah, Georgia, literally for my anniversary with my wife. And when we got back that first week of March, things started trickling, and then just everything stopped, man. So I think honestly, this has taught a lot to me, my partner, Jason. The adversity really, really brings in a lot of opportunity. Did we hit where we are at? I don't know, honestly, because heck, we still have 8 more properties closing before the 31st. So I want to see which ones actually close up before that time frame, and then I can let you know if we hit it or not. Because the goal for our company was to be able to do 200,000 in Q4. So if these close up, we should hit that. That being said, I think these kind of opportunities in the short term are just hell. There's no other way of really putting it when it comes to like this, what we've had to do to overcome. But I think it's really, really made our company a lot more agile to be able to adapt to whatever the heck 2021 comes and brings too.
Give us an example of that hell. What is something that you had to do that you weren't doing previously?
Yeah, so in the beginning of COVID, naturally, people did not want anybody going into their houses. And I don't know about anybody here, but it's really difficult to sell or buy a house if you can't get into it, even if you have 60 pictures. So being able to walk that tightrope of being able to get pictures, maybe one-time access for a very long, for a few months, we were using like a Matterport camera, so we can be able to do virtual tours of property, so people could get a really in-depth look with not stepping foot inside of properties. And we were able to sell just about a dozen properties through the Matterport camera technique. Now that things have kind of settled back, people want to get back in the properties. They're feeling a little bit more comfortable. But during that time of great adversity between, I'd say, March, and then there was April, I'd say about halfway through April to about end of June, we were hard on the Matterport camera and being a huge sales technique, and it helped us out a lot.
Okay. Awesome. So Lynn, somebody asked you what bank you're using for doing refi, and are you happy with them?
So I go through an independent mortgage broker named Mike Karen in Winter Park.
Named what?
And we
What was the name?
usually go, I'm sorry.
What was the name? You broke up right when you said it.
Oh, his name, the mortgage broker is Michael Karen, and he owns 5 Star Mortgage in Winter Park. He's an independent broker. And we usually get the best rate from Lennox Financial. So we're going to do all 3 of I did 1 already, and we'll do the next 2 with them.
Lynx Financial.
Lennox Financial. Yeah. He has a variety of banks that he can use, but with he just plugs in my information, and then we talk about what's best between the rate and if there's any points, and we just pick, it's usually that bank.
Okay. Okay. So the next question I have is, it's December. A lot of times people are getting prepared financially for next year. So what steps, if any, do you typically take in December to prepare for the following year's taxes? Phil, we're going to start with you.
None.
None.
My accountant and bookkeeper handle all of that, so I don't take any special steps in December. It's kind of a monthly process of making sure everything's on point by the time December gets here.
Okay. Lynn, do you do anything differently in December to prepare for the following year?
Not necessarily in December, but I use Jim Doer also for my CPA, and we'll usually have a chat October-ish. And he'll give me kind of a final number of how much money I can put into maybe my SEP IRA. And then the next couple months I'll then I'll transfer all the money over. And then, and I just start making sure all my statements are in order, got all my receipts and all my documents are ready to go. I'm not a procrastinator, so I like to do my taxes right away.
Okay. So you mentioned a SEP IRA. Do you buy property in that or do lending, or what do you do with that SEP IRA? Is it in a self-directed account?
So I've got a couple different IRAs. So I have my work one for my 401k at work. I do have a Roth and a traditional with equity trust. So that's with my self-directed. For the SEP right now, I just have it with Vanguard. So I can do, because it's a smaller amount of money and it's variable how much I can contribute every year. So sometimes it's only a little bit. So I just keep that invested in a Vanguard fund for now. I can always move it over to equity trust if I need to top off some kind of investment.
Okay. David, do you do anything at the end of the year to get ready for the next year financially?
No, I have a meeting with my CPA every second Thursday of every month, and that's when we go through P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flows, inflows. So we're not really usually making too crazy amount of adjustments there,
Okay.
unless he's trying to tell me I gotta spend some more money on a property. So I don't think that's happening.
So none of you are taking any steps preparing for the fact that we might go to a higher tax bracket next year with Biden. None of you are doing things to prepare for that.
So we were always going to go to a higher tax bracket because the last tax cut was kind of like a sunset. So you got a big tax cut in the first year, but your tax rate kind of would trickle back up because it wasn't a permanent tax cut. So we have no idea if they're going to pass any modification to it, and I think the tax cut affected everybody differently. It depended on what tax bracket you're in. It depended on what kind of investments you have. So, I always expect to pay a lot of tax. That's, we're in the business of, of making money. And when you make money, you got to pay tax. So I always have, I always keep all my finances enough in the savings account. I always estimate when I talk to Jim and around October, how much he thinks I'm going to owe. So I kind of have all my money together towards the end of the year. So I know where it's all going to be going. An estimation, of course.
Okay. Phil, did you do anything preparing for the possible increase in tax rates?
I did not.
Okay. David?
No, sir.
Okay. Interesting. Not one of you did anything differently. That's the optimist view of the CFRI members. That's awesome.
Honestly, Todd, what I think is, the basics of real estate investing stay the same, you buy at a certain percent, your goal to make money stay at if you flip you want a certain percentage, when you buy a house, you want to buy it at a certain percent LTV or to make a certain amount of money. So, all the basics are the same. You keep yourself financially stable. You don't overextend yourself. So, I don't know that we needed to do a huge amount of changes because if you apply all the kind of the rules and methods, you can change as the market changes. That's my opinion.
I agree with you.
Okay. So Lynn has said she doesn't do a whole lot of planning, or maybe I'm misquoting that, but what are the type of things that you do plan for? David, it sounded like you had some serious written plans. What are the things that you do plan for or set goals for in your real estate business? What are the things that you plan for, set goals for, and track?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, man. So when it comes to the company, we're always trying to see how we can be able to provide more value to not only the sellers but also to the buyers. We've been able to expand the team out this year, which was one of my biggest goals for sure. Is this year is take me one step removed from the day in day out stuff. What was been awesome, though, I will say, from the adversity that COVID brought, is that it allowed a lot of great talent into that hiring market, and we were able to grab some studs, man. So the biggest concern that we're going to be going for is making sure that us as a wholesaling company, we're making sure more and more that we're investing better technology. We have been able to go a lot more into our PPC going into from Q3 into this Q4. It's paid off good dividends for us. We're starting to expand out not only from Central Florida, but we're actually going to be tackling now statewide. So I think if we see Q1 do really well for us and just all of the state of Florida, we might be actually expanding out into different states. Of course, I want to see what happens with Q1 and then the whole presidential shift and forbearances and stuff like that. If we do see what we believe happens, we have funds ready to go to hit new marketing points and attack new territories.
Okay. Was that your first hire? You said you got somebody hired. That was a great thing. What job did they fill?
Yeah, so the person that we just onboarded was an acquisition manager, and we actually hired a great disposition manager as well about 2 months ago. We did have somebody else in the acquisition role. They just weren't able to convert on some of the properties that we needed. So I jumped in a little bit for the time being, but one of the people that we interviewed actually for the disposition manager was still around, thankfully enough. I don't know how that happens. They were just on furlough through one of the hotels, and just they were waiting to get their neck chopped off, man. They're laying off a lot of people for some of these bigger hotel chains, and we got her right before another agency got her, and she's been killing it.
So what are the things that you set as goals? Like, is it number of houses? Is it the profit level? What are the things that you put as part of your goals?
Right. So we do actually all of that. And what we've been doing is really some next level amount of tracking what leads to contract kind of looks like for our different mediums. What is the cost per contract? So now we're starting to able to stabilize what we think the amount of leads is to convert on contracts versus PPC versus direct mail versus texting. I mean, whatever it kind of goes there. Now that we have this person onboarded for acquisitions, I think by end of December, I'd like to be able to see her cranking out 2 properties a week. So we are going to be trying to tackle roughly, it looks like 8 to 10 properties a month.
Okay. Phil, do you have anything that you're planning on tracking next year or setting goals for next year? What is it that you're looking to next year to track that you
Okay, so I just got home for Thanksgiving from New York after living there pretty much all year. And looking at the future, I've been thinking that I'm going to take the entire month of December to make some decisions. But one of the things that I think I'm going to spend some time tracking is how much money I can raise for a big purchase. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on doing that in 2021. Because I do think, just like everything else, there's going to be some apartment building owners who mismanaged their property during 2020, during this COVID, didn't know, to get their tenants assistance, or just were not able to do some of the things that they should have done. So, I'm going to spend my time focusing on trying to raise money, because I think there's going to be a deal out there that I can't afford myself.
So are you going to allot a certain amount of time per day or per week that it's trackable for raising money? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am going to track myself. I was thinking an hour a day, focusing on that specifically, amongst other things that I have an hour allotted for here and there. But that's one thing I'm going to add to the repertoire.
what amount of money, if you could raise it, would you be happy with?
A good question. As much as I can. Much as I can.
That's always the answer. Always more.
No, I mean, it's a real answer, because if I can raise 10 million bucks, then I could buy $100 million property. I mean, a $50 million property. But, you know, it's all a matter of testing my ability, and because raising money is really your reputation, right? It's people who know you or will speak for you and say, hey, this guy's done some big deals. I think I can put 25 grand, 50 grand aside to enter this deal with him, you know, because I have that track record. So that's really why I say as much as I can, because I don't know where the limit is.
Okay. Have you ever spent an appreciable amount of time trying to raise money before, or is this something new for you?
I've never truly tried to raise money before, so this is really going to be new. I know how to do it. I know, you know, what to do. Just didn't, when I learned, which was about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I was knee deep in the project I just finished. So I never really applied myself to it. So now, you know, I've been on the phone since I've been home with some people that I know have raised money before, and, you know, just ironing out the kinks. And that's what I tend to do.
You said you learned. What did you do to learn to raise money?
I went to a few seminars about 2.5, 3 years ago, apartment syndication seminars. And, you know, although I've heard about syndication 25 years ago, I never explored it. But now that I've been in the apartment space for 15 years or so, I think it's time that I stop using my own money.
Okay. Lynn, same question.
I have a, you know, I would, I don't necessarily say I have a goal, but I would like to add a couple more rentals, maybe do a few flips. You know, I'm on some of my refis, I'm cashing out. So I've got a little cash that I have to work with. So
what's your criteria for buying a rental?
I like to have at least a 10 to 12% yield. So that's kind of, and ideally I like to get into the property for a purchase price less than around 70%. So I can just do a straight refi. So if I have to borrow from a hard money lender or a private lender, then I can just refi at what I owe. So that's kind of how I try and do it. Or of course I love subject twos, but I haven't had one for those for a little while.
Okay. So the next question, being that we're CFRI, do any of you have any learning goals, or what do you want to, what's something new you want to learn next year? And we'll start with you, David. You're shaking your head. So what is,
Always, man, there's always something to learn, and that's the beauty of it.
and the second part of that question is, there's so much opportunity to learn. How do you decide what you're going to go to and what you're not going to go to? So what is
Yeah.
your learning goal for next year? And how do you decide where to go and who to go and how much money to spend?
Yeah, so one of my two, I have a 1A and a 1B. The 1A is I want to launch like a great offer or service that has to do with rent to own. That has been kind of the thing I've been trying to train this old muscle here to get better at, is really just thinking outside the box. What is the beauty and also the pain of wholesaling is that it allows you to kind of think everything is a nail to a hammer, right? So I'm trying to untrain my mind to think a little bit more creatively. So that is one of my bigger things that I'm really jumping in again on. And the second is not to probably the level of Phil, but I am always trying to raise private capital as well for any of the deals that we're doing. Not quite syndicating, but we have done a couple of duplexes that way. We've had raised money for flips that we've done, any kind of wholesales that we've been able to provide resale values for. Those have been some of the bigger things. And then of course, how we can really be able to run an operation from Orlando in a lot of parts of the nation.
And how do you like to learn? Is it books, YouTube, seminars? What's your preferred way to learn new stuff?
You know, I've always thought about that question, and it always comes back to how interested am I in the topic? That's what it always comes down to for me. If I'm super interested in the topic, it doesn't matter if it's a book, it doesn't matter if it's a seminar, it doesn't matter if it's audio. If I'm really interested, I will consume it. It doesn't matter. My still favorite way always is still tangible reading. But if I'm in a seminar, I love going to seminars. So I really, really hate 2020 took that a lot from me, because I made a goal of 2020 to do one seminar every quarter, and I was only able to achieve one, obviously in Q1, and I might be doing one this quarter, but everybody has to be spaced out, everybody has to be checked before, everybody has to be checked after, and you know, it doesn't ruin it, but it's not quite the glitter that it usually is.
Okay. Lynn, do you have any learning goals for this year, and how do you like to learn?
So actually, COVID gave me the opportunity to participate in a lot of things I wouldn't have otherwise been able to, because I work in the evenings. I work 2 to 11 for my regular job, and I'm never able to attend virtually any CFRI meetings in the evenings. So COVID was a big bonus to me. I learned a lot. I every time like Robin's on, I learned something from Robin. I've been able to kind of just, I don't know, get a little more education. I also did a note seminar that was online, a webinar. So I did a lot this year. And I did Sandra's tax deed Zoom class last month or the month before. So kind of whatever comes up, that I can do. I like Zoom classes, so I'm okay.
Anything in particular you want to learn for next year? Just wait till you see something you like.
Yeah, it's maybe something that I've not done before. I've done a little bit of everything. The note one was important for me. I think if another note seminar comes up that there's not a national program, maybe something more, a little different than what I saw before. Yeah, I would like to get into more notes.
Okay. Did you do Robin's calculator class ever?
I did Robin's calculator class years ago.
Okay.
And I probably would like to do that again, because I don't even have a financial calculator.
Well, it's all on your phone now.
Right. I realized I can download an app. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she teaches that on an app now. So
Mhm.
Phil, what about your learning goals for this year, and how do you like to learn?
I am a consummate learner. Not knowing enough when I started has made me a learner. So I'll learn anything, anywhere. My preferred method, though, is audio. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audio books. I really hate reading. If I got to get it out of a book, I'm probably not going to learn it. It's just the way I am. I like to learn hands-on, because I tend to learn stuff and have somewhat of a photographic memory on how things are done. So I can watch somebody do something and I know how to do it, so I'm a visual learner and I'm an audio learner.
So what's your favorite real estate related podcast then?
Boy, I listen to so many of them. I got to go on my phone and tell you one.
What's your go-to one?
Huh?
What's your go-to one?
It depends on how I feel. I listen to this one called Commercial Real Estate. I listen to this one, Old Capital is one of my favorites. The Real Estate Guys, I like them. But if you can see this, I don't know if you can, those are all the podcasts that I have downloaded to my phone. There's 17 of them, it says here. So most of them are real estate.
Yeah, COVID's gotten me into podcasts listening to, just because I've done so much walking every day that I'm a big podcaster. I wasn't ever a podcaster until this year, but now I'm so stinking addicted to podcasts that it's awesome.
Yeah, I've always, I mean, as long as podcasts have been available, I've been on them. Prior to that was always, audio books. But the podcasts give you more back and forth, because they'll have guest speakers and problem solving and stuff like that, and ideas that are generated from some of the things that they talk about, so that's my preferred way to learn.
Okay. So the next question is, do you guys have written goals? And if so, how do you go about setting them each year? Lynn, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't necessarily have written real estate goals. I have other, financial goals, but not necessarily I'm going to buy, 2 houses, this year. I'm always ready to buy a house. So when a deal that I like comes along, then I'm always ready. So.
Okay. So you don't have any written real estate goals necessarily.
No, not usually. I have my written criteria, and then when I find a house that meets that criteria, then I'll buy it.
Okay. Phil, do you have written real estate goals?
Currently, I don't, but when I was doing what Dave does, I always had written goals because, you have to have a judging measure as to whether you're successful or not. So when I got into the apartment space, the goals kind of like didn't need to be written because the goal would be like buy 1 apartment building. So you didn't have to write that down. You knew if you did or you didn't. But as I said, when I was flipping houses and doing all of that, I had written goals. I had monthly targets. I had the number of people I had to call, the number of door knockers I had to do. I had it all written down. So I can easily look at something and say, gee, I only knocked on 4 doors today. The goal was 10, and I know tomorrow, okay, I got to do 15 if I was going to hit that target. So I don't now, but I certainly did. And I'm sure Dave has plenty written down,
Okay. Dave, tell us what your goals are and how you go about, if they're written, and how you go about figuring out what those goals are going to be.
So the last 2 weeks, I've been a little bit on my lackadaisical. It was my birthday 2 weeks ago, and then there was Thanksgiving. But this thing's almost done back and forth. This is just for the year 2020. I have one always for every single year. Yeah, I mean, Phil's 100% right, man. I believe in writing them down because it really crystallizes it in my mind. My big first and foremost goal really is making Florida House Buyers a 7-figure real estate investment company. That has been one of the things that when I first started, I thought was ludicrous, to be honest. I didn't think that was even a measuring stick that was even in the same ballpark. Now going into what this year kind of proved in terms of adversity and being able to find a great partner. Jason's also a CFRI member, but you won't see him too often. He's kind of the guy he's the puppeteer. I'm the puppet. So you won't see him too often. Once 2020 kind of came around, I realized 7 figures is actually probably just a stepping stone. I think I can grow it even further than that. So that's always the first and foremost real estate goal. The 1B to the second one is always trying to grow the rental portfolio, because I do always understand that wholesaling is just a continuous hunting aspect. So I have goals ranging from a quarter to 3 years to 5 years. I mean, I would love to be able to be on this kind of panel 3 years from now and have that same conversation about apartment syndications. I think that is awesome. I think that the next level in terms of thought and complexity to it just really sparks my interest. So I like to be able to ramp it up from the couple duplexes I have it to triplexes to multifamilies and then to 50 units and up.
Okay. So you
All
have
right,
written
Dave,
goals.
we'll talk after the meeting.
I love it.
How often do you look at your goals and how often do you change them upward? or downward conceivably?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm always seeing the goals at least every other day, right? So if you're doing back and forth, that's the good part of writing it down. You always got back and forth. So you're seeing it every couple of days. The good part about when you write it back and forth, I kind of use it as a challenge when I'm on that new page. So like today was a back and forth, was a day that I already had, so I can copy and paste it pretty easily. So tomorrow is like my fun challenging day where do I remember my goals without looking at the other side of that paper, right? And so when I do that, I like to think, all right, is it still that top priority, or am I copying and pasting my yesterday's goal? So I'd like to think about that for a minute or two. And if I can still jot it down from memory, which I usually do, that means it's still important to me, if I can crystallize it that well. So yes, I look at it every other day because of the other side of the page.
Okay. So let's take a couple questions from the Q&A. So Richard Zwick asked, do you think the loan modifications will postpone foreclosure next year?
I think that they're already kind of they're always going to be a slowing of some people. I think the loan mods just depend on the person, but at a certain point, you can't modify something that's already been modified. I mean, that happens all the time when somebody's maybe been a couple of months short and then they do a forbearance and then the company's like, all right, we could modify it. And then you're not paying another 6 months from then. I don't think a bank or a mortgage company is going to modify you if you didn't pay the first 6 months and then they modified you and then you didn't pay the next 6 months. And I think that's when between this wave and then the next 6 month wave is where we're going to really see if people have been able to actually pay their bills on those modified bills, or have we just been living in that dream world where now things are going to become reality?
Okay. So Leslie Purdy asked an interesting question, and I guess it's geared towards Phil. Would you sell off your single family resident assets to raise capital in case renters don't pay rent? I am at about 65% LTV across all properties. So would any of you advocate selling right now to raise capital?
Well, we had this discussion, I think, in our last meeting. So
It
for
was at the
me,
Orange County meeting.
right. So for me, most of the rentals that I bought over the last 2 or 3 years, I got really good prices on. And so for me, I'm not really willing to give up that yield, because I don't want to sell a property that I bought really well only to turn around and have to buy a property that doesn't have the same profit margin.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily willing to do that. If I had a property that that maybe was a real pain in the butt and it gave me a lot of trouble, I might consider selling it, letting it go. But you have to look at what you're going to invest that money in that you just sold. Well, if the prices stay where they are, that I can't buy a rental at the same profitability now that I could have 3 years ago. So for me, that would be a no.
Okay, Phil?
I would say the same. I'm a hold person, so I'm gonna sweat it out and hang in there. I'd rather not sell something because, as Lynn just stated, what are you going to buy with the money? So it wouldn't make sense to me to do that.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have an exact next step planned out, I don't know why you would do that. You're in a good position, and you might put yourself potentially in a worse position. So I don't know, unless you're really like, you want $250,000 to go and try buying 10 more properties and you know exactly where you're going to find them. I mean, 65% is a really good spot to be in. I don't know if you quite want to endanger yourself that way.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I said in the Orange County meeting. I think you should seriously consider selling your best property if you own multiple properties. This is assuming that you own a bunch of properties. Sell your worst property that gives you the biggest headaches, either your worst tenant or it needs the most work or it's farther away, any property that you don't love right now, the prices are so high that I think it's a good time to sell a portion of them. And then it's conceivable if you have a huge home run deal that you're worried about taxes, that you should at least consider selling now before the tax increase.
Yeah.
And hold paper?
Do whatever. Put it on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that line of thinking because you want to get rid of the headache ones. But you know, we're in the business of solving headaches, right? So you want to get those ones working before they're a problem. But yeah, I could see you selling something that's a real headache. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Stupid fucking chair. That's gonna be on my Christmas list. The stupid
David-
fucking chair.
We can hear you, David.
Well, you're not on mute, Dave.
Sorry. I'm sinking, man. I'm sinking every time. This is so annoying.
So, David, we're getting a lot of questions about your notebook, about what you write in your notebook.
All righty. I just put getting a new chair. So I go through because I had a knee surgery about a year ago. I always try making sure I'm going back to the gym and I'm trying to get that knee back to 100%. I mean, it's still not 100%, but I mean, if one of y'all are chasing me, I'm pretty sure I can outrun you. So let's just put it that way. But I'm kind of like that former athlete. I still want to keep on trying to progress it. I went through what I want to do for Florida house buyers. There's a weight goal that I want to achieve. I put one that's 2 years out and then 4 years out, and that's adding different streams of income. As I mentioned, the rent to own program, always a networking one. I think one of the bigger things that I think now I'm getting into that point, and I heard it, I think Mari mentioned it, is giving back a lot more. I think I've made that something that's been on my goal sheet now for a couple of months. I think I've just started realizing now with COVID, I've been fortunate enough to kind of profit and benefit from it. If I can pay back and do some non-charities and stuff like that and help others, it's been great to be able to do that. And then as kind of Phil and I hit, as you can kind of see, I'm sinking slowly, the private lending opportunities. I really want that to be something I really tackled pretty hard in 2021. I wanted to do it in 2020, but of course the face-to-face interactions have gone pretty low.
Okay. So we have two questions basically about starting in wholesaling, and Phil's done some wholesaling. Lynn, have you done any wholesaling?
My first real investment deal was a wholesale. Yeah.
Okay. So the questions are being asked, what is some advice on getting starting in wholesaling? And are there any, seminars or stuff you would do, things you would read? What advice would you have for somebody getting in new as a wholesaler? We'll start with you, Lynn.
Since Dave is doing this. Okay.
For me, my advice is it's harder than it looks. All the classes and everything makes it look really easy, but it's actually pretty hard to find a property. And then not necessarily to find a property, but to find one that someone wants to buy at a good price. So you have to know your numbers. You have to know your audience. You have to know who you're going to sell it to, what people want to buy it at. People just go, they get it under contract for too high of a price, and then they get mad because nobody buys it. So, getting your numbers straight, that's number one.
Okay. Phil, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, when I was doing it, and people ask me how, even though I haven't done it in years, I think two key points. One Lynn touched on is knowing your numbers. That's critical key one. You got to know the comps. You got to know, the ARV and, how much repair costs are, because if you don't know all of that, you're going to do what Lynn just said, is you're going to get something on the contract. No one's going to buy it. But the other key point that I think is critically important is build a buyer's list, because I don't know how many times somebody came to me with a deal that I thought was a deal, but I'm not buying it. and they had no one to sell it to. And I referred them to you, Todd. I said, hey, call Todd. Maybe Todd will mail it out to his list. But you got to have a buyer's list. So if you're going into wholesaling, know the numbers, build a buyer's list.
Okay, David?
Yeah, so obviously I've taught this a couple of times now through CFRI, and more than anything, I always want to just know, why do you want to go into wholesaling? That's kind of where it really starts for me, is because I've had Lynn came by our office like almost a month ago. Wow, that was almost a month ago. And she kind of sees the operation. It's not what people think it is. It's not that you just get to post, hey, here's a $35,000 check. Like, I did nothing. I only made 2 calls. You know, like there's a social media like gold rush about this, and it has these crazy, stupid dopamine hits where people see life-changing money. $20,000 is life-changing money on an assignment fee, right? But I've always wanted people to understand, why do you want to get into it? Because it's not easy. And it's like I mentioned, Lynn came by. I have people that are dedicated solely to acquisitions. I have people dedicated solely to dispositions. And then me, I still jump in from time to time. We have a huge marketing budget. I mean, there's a lot of complexities to it. So if your goal to jump into wholesaling is strictly about getting a check, well, this is just a notepad, but like, you know, the check that you see on social media groups and posts and forums, if that's your goal, then I think you're going to be very short-lived in wholesaling. My favorite thing, and I've done this in a lot of different videos and presentations, is understand that you're helping people out. If you don't understand that part of wholesaling, then it's not for you. You're going to get too greedy. You're going to be somebody who doesn't do their numbers right. And you're going to think about yourself before you think about others. And that, my friend, is not what wholesaling is about. You're there to, and Phil said it earlier, you're there to solve issues. You're there to solve problems. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've been able to help out. And sometimes when it's a very, very frustrating position, you understand these people are going through something crazy, man. I mean, there's been probates, there's been people that can't pay their bills, there's people that are living in a house that, you know, their grandparents built, and now it's gone to ruins, and they feel embarrassed about it, and we have to come in and help out. If you don't understand the why behind wholesaling and why you're helping these people out, but you think it's all about a check, I kind of say politely, you know, go look at the exit door, because it's going to be a very short-lived experience.
Okay, so let me give my 2 cents on this topic, since I think I'm uniquely qualified to talk about it.
Mhm.
If you want to be in wholesaling, or as a real estate business in general, but wholesaling specifically, you have to learn marketing. It's either direct mail, cold calling, pay-per-click, knocking doors. You have to have some form of marketing that you become an expert in, and do it consistently in order to get motivated sellers to call you. So if you want to be a wholesaler, you basically have to be a marketer. That's your number 1, number 2, and number 3 goal. You're either marketing for buying, marketing for selling, but you have to learn marketing. If you
Mhm.
don't want to be a marketer, then you want to go to work for a company like David's, who hires people, and you just get to take advantage of their marketing and take a piece of the pie. But if you want to be your own wholesaler, you have to learn marketing. And that's internet, direct mail, on the phone call, or pay-per-click, or, you know, there's a million different ways to market, but those are the 3 best in my opinion. So learn marketing. Do any of y'all want to disagree with that?
Well, that's definitely on. That's definitely on it.
Because you can be a part-time investor without learning marketing. You can buy 1 property a year, add it to your portfolio from, you know, wholesalers or from referrals. But if you want a business, you want to start your own wholesaling business, you have to learn marketing.
Yeah, it has to be something that you can be able to rinse and repeat. And marketing, as you mentioned, you have to make it somehow sustainable, whether that's, as you mentioned, direct mail, computer, like pay-per-click, direct driving for dollars. That's still, if somebody is still trying to kind of stumble into it part-time, I think still driving for dollars still has its viability. Just don't get impatient, because you know, it's going to take a couple hundred properties for you to get it. But I mean, you're talking to somebody who's marketing to 40,000 people in direct mail a month. So it's not too bad of a return.
But even the driving for dollars, you send them a letter or a call
Yep.
after the fact.
100%.
So you still have to learn what to write to them and how many times to write to them and a sequence. So,
Hmm.
you know, yeah,
The
I bought my first
sequence is very important.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had one letter that would go out this week, one letter that would go out the following month, and another, and it's repetition, because they're getting 100 letters from other guys. So when they see that consistency from you, most people who are in foreclosure or selling their house because they got a divorce or whatever the problem is, they don't want to sell their house. And eventually they realize that they have to. And who are they going to call? The person that they see frequently.
Yeah, McDonald's doesn't only advertise on Monday, or Coke. They advertise Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this month and next month and the following month. And they do it on multiple methods. So yeah, learn marketing is what I tell people for sure. If you want to start in
I
wholesale.
got a quick question for Dave. Do you, when you get your responses, do you write down why they chose you and not someone else?
Yeah, I honestly, with the conversations that you kind of have, you can usually dissect it pretty easily. Man, I really don't like putting myself against too many competitors, but the best way to really say it is, did you really listen to them and solve their problem? Because they probably have spoken to many people, but did you understand what they are saying is really the nuts and bolts of it, man. How many times am I sending out to people? I mean, I send out 40,000 marketing pieces every single month. So I'm sending a tremendous amount. The timing is obviously critical, but if I'm sending it, most likely than not, yeah, you're right. There's other people. Who's taking the additional time to really hear what their issue is? I've beaten people, I can't even tell you how many times, with lower prices because the person was understood. That is the most critical thing. Do they feel like, you know what, this guy can solve my problem? That's it. Or is it like you just keep on telling them, I could buy it cash, I could buy it cash, I could buy it cash. No closing costs to you, I could buy it cash. If you keep on pitching something that they don't care about, I mean, you're beating your head against the wall.
They don't hear it.
Yeah. So that's why We Buy Houses was a really good one there, Todd.
Yeah. Okay, so we answered most of my questions. Let's see, do I have any others? No. What's the best advice you can give to somebody starting out, whether it's wholesaling or not? Let's forget wholesaling for a minute. What would you say for the new person needs to learn, and how should they go about learning this business? Because there's a million different ways to learn. Phil said he only doesn't like to read, but what do you think is the most important way that you can go about getting yourself educated? Like, I don't remember who was mentioned, you got to know your numbers. Well, how do you learn the numbers? How did all three of you go about learning what the costs were to redo a bathroom?
So I get this question a lot. I get from my coworkers quite often. I want to get into real estate. How do I do it? So, and I give everybody now the exact same, I send everybody the same email, basically. I tell them to read some books to read. You can listen to podcasts and join CFRI and go to the meetings. You have to learn from others. CFRI is so affordable. To go to the seminars, and you can learn so much from the focus groups and meeting other investors. Because if you're starting out and you don't have any money, you'll find perhaps a partner to work with. If you find a deal, you'll find someone to help you fund it. So just learning who everybody is, what everyone has to offer, and all the different ways about how to buy a property.
Okay, Phil?
I'm going to say anyone who's listening is part of CFRI. So you already made the first right step. The second thing is, Dave mentioned it, you got to network with people, you got to get to know people, and you can't be afraid to ask questions. Always ask questions. I don't care how stupid you think the question is, somebody else wants to know that answer, ask questions. You can use resources like CFRI or biggerpockets.com and other podcasts that are out there. And the other thing I'm going to say is that don't be afraid to fail, because if you're getting started, you're going to make some mistakes. Understand you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does, and keep moving.
Phil, would you mind sharing your first deal?
I think I've shared that too many times. Okay.
Money on your first deal is the point, and you still stayed in the game because you treated it as a learning experience, correct?
Yes. All right. For those who haven't heard this before, my first deal, I was 24 years old. I watched the infomercial, and they said I could be rich overnight. And I believed them, quit my job, bought a property in New York City at a real estate auction. Now, mind you, I know nothing about real estate other than that infomercial. And I bought a 6-family house and didn't have any idea how I was going to fix it, because all it was a shell. It had no doors, no windows, and the stairs and the floor were all that was there in the 6-family. After, getting it cleaned out, I spent quite a bit of money getting it cleaned out. All the garbage was in there, debris. Then I figured the next step is to get a contractor to fix it up. So I had contractor after contractor come in and give me bids. Finally, one contractor said to me, "Listen, young man, I'm going to give you a price, but what it's going to cost to fix this is not going to be what it's worth when it's done." So to give you numbers, I bought this property, and I wish I could buy another one in New York City for this price, but it couldn't even buy a parking space for this price. But we're going back to 1984. I bought a 6-family shell for $27,000. Sounded like a deal to me. But they wanted $150 to renovate it to make it livable. And it would have been worth $125 when finished. So, when I got that lesson, and all the bids did come at either higher than 150 or more, but 150 was probably the best number. And, after learning that it would only be worth 125, I kind of took a step back, tried to figure out what am I going to do with this property. Eventually, the city of New York eminent domain the property, paid back the mortgage, and I got nothing. And I lost, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood, I can't remember now, but I put the down payment, which was about $2,700. You had to put 10%. I paid $5,000 to clean up, and I think I paid an architect $5,000 to tell me what we're going to do with it. So all in all, I lost about 15, 17 grand. 12 grand in the deal. And if you think back to the fact that I was 24 and this money was rent on a credit card, I should have quit and got out of this business. But all that told me was that you just don't know enough. And that's why I'm a consummate learner, because you got to learn.
And that's the beauty of CFRI. In my opinion, that's one of the biggest things that we do. Keep people from making big mistakes by asking people you trust for help.
I wish I had found CFRI before I bought my first 2 investment properties. So I lost an enormous amount of money for my first 2 because a realtor told me it was a great deal. I thought I could do it, and I bought at the top of the market. Of course, we all didn't know the market was going to tank, So yeah, so I lost a boatload of money, but I didn't give up. I I found CFRI and I found Augie's packed coaching class, and I found all this different ways to buy property, and I regrouped and now so.
David, what was your biggest mistake? So we're on this mistake trend, let's call it.
State trends. I would say it's more for me. It was opportunity cost rather than like a tangible cost. And I wish I would have probably leaned on people a little bit harder in my first year or two, where I had a lot. And I still have the energy, but I had a lot of unfocused energy. And I think I got a little bit more shiny object syndrome because exactly what you mentioned. There's so many things in real estate, right? There's like the note investing, there's the rental property, there's the flips, there's the wholesaling, there's this wholesale stuff, there's land acquisitions, there's new development. Like literally, like I remember trying to drink from like 20 fire hoses, and I was trying to do everything at the same time. And I realized at the end of the year, I couldn't do any of them right. So I would say it was probably opportunity cost more than anything. If I was able to keep my focus more on just maybe one, even maybe two things, I would have probably been even further than I am right now. So that's probably one of the bigger things is really starting with what you want to do. Like, why do you want to have rental portfolios? Why do you want to flip a house? Why do you want to wholesale? And then, as Phil hit it, one of my two, it was like a 1-2 combo. It was really with CFRI and Bigger Pockets. I was audiobooks all my podcasts with Bigger Pockets, and I was meeting with people at CFRI. So it was like, all right, well, this guy was just talking about this thing called wholesaling. And then at that time is when I was starting to see you as VP and president. I was like, well, Todd was actually a wholesaler, so let me talk to Todd about that. And then, so like I was stemming the topics from the podcast, and like, okay, well, Fern Bird was talking about that she owns a bunch of properties around here that are debt free. And then you hear Shep, her husband, talk about like how they've diminished like all of the tax deductibles from it. I'm like, well, how does that happen? And like, so you just start, you have a couple of topics that you hear from the podcast or books or whatever like that. And then, what CFRI does is really great is that they have people who are really good in those topics have presentations or a panel such as this one. Lynn is somebody who's completely different than Phil, who's completely different than me, who's completely different than you. So you have a variety of experience, and, don't be afraid to grab coffee with somebody. We're 2020 and, there's COVID and, everything's a little weird like that nowadays. But, when things get a little bit normal, like don't be afraid to, grab a coffee or a beer with somebody and just pick their brain. More people than not that aren't going to have fangs. They're not going to bite your head off here at CFRI. They're going to, give you some time to chat with you about it.
That's the biggest thing I miss because of COVID is going to have a beer if the meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
Now, I only usually have two, but I just really enjoy that time to sit around and talk with other like-minded people, and you learn so much.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, I would always just seek out the smartest person, and I would just sit next to them at lunch and try to listen in on their conversations.
Is that why you always sat by me, Todd?
and just be a sponge, but we can't do that. So go to as many Zoom classes during this COVID, like Lynn said, because you are going to learn something.
Yeah.
It's either save you money or make you money. One of the two.
There's always somebody that says something that I didn't think about before.
Definitely.
And I've done all kinds of things in real estate, but I always get, even if I think, oh, this meeting's going boring, all of a sudden someone will say something little and I'd be like, oh, I got to write that down.
Yeah.
I mean, I recently paid $1,500 to go to a seminar that I could have given myself. And I sat there the whole weekend and I'm thinking, man, I'm not learning a thing. Then the guy said somewhere towards the last day, one sentence that I said, God, that was worth the whole damn weekend. So I'm all about learning, man. Keep on learning.
Yeah.
But let me touch on something Dave said a little earlier about all the different options of CFRI. You know, I speak to a lot of the people that are new to CFRI and they want to know what should they go into. The first thing I would say is go to all the subgroups, figure out what you want to do, and focus on that one thing. Because if you do, as Dave said, many of us have done that, where you're trying to make money in every avenue of real estate. I mean, if I can go back and give myself advice when I first started, it would be stay with one plan.
Yep.
Because I've
Agreed.
wholesaled, I've fixed and flipped, I've done just, you know, just about everything at least once. And all of that energy is wasted if you would just be a specialist in one thing. And I always tell people, be a specialist in one thing. And if you make money at it and you decide to change, at least you're making money in one thing and you can change. But
Yep.
when you're doing all of these different, every month there's a new topic with CFRI, and people try to be good at that topic this month, and then the next month they want to be at that topic, and then we don't see them anymore. You know, next
Yep.
year they don't.
Yeah, I feel really bad for a lot of people who try starting at wholesaling and put a lot of money. I mean, to go send out 5,000 to 10,000 or whatever the amount of, you know, direct mail campaigns that they do, and they expect it. Sometimes, guys, it's true. You go fishing, sometimes you don't catch a fish, and that's kind of what marketing is. Sometimes you can send out 5,000 postcards and you get 20 calls and 0 end up being contracts. Sometimes you send another 5,000 and that ends up being 4 contracts. But like sometimes in that very beginning, when I was like pretty broken coming out of college, you know, I had to make sure I had them like the resources that, damn, this round did not yield anything. Like, how am I going to make sure I do another round of this? And what hurt me the most is thinking I could do other things to compensate to that money that I was trying to do on the second round of, you know, like you start chasing, well, how am I going to get this extra $2,000 or $3,000 to be able to spend for that next round of marketing or something like that? You know, one of my mentors says it really, really well, man. And Phil just hit it on it. The only way a magnifying glass really burns that anthill is if it is staying in one position. If you are moving the magnifying glass in every direction, it is not generating enough heat. If you keep it right there and you focus it, it is gonna get enough heat to burn that anthill. But if you keep on moving it around, it's not gonna do anything.
I always use, I like that analogy with the anthill. I always use, you know, if you had a pimple, would you want somebody to use an axe or a laser? You know, it's pretty simple. You know, you want that laser, and that's why they have specialists, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think people aren't prepared for how long it might take to get a first deal. I've sent out 7,000 pieces of mail one time and got 1 call and no deals.
Yep.
I've sent out 12 pieces of mail one time and I got 2 deals. So the point is, if you do anything once and expect a deal, you have false hopes, in my opinion. You
Yep.
have
Well,
to.
you know what really happens, Todd? A lot of people will send out that first 12 pieces and get lucky. Then they think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the real trap.
And that's the sad part, because when, you know, they'll stick it out and keep mailing and wondering what's going wrong. Well, buddy, you got lucky on the first one, you know?
Yeah,
The
you
clock
can't.
is, you know, a broken clock has got the right time twice a day, you know?
Yep. Okay. It's 8:10. Let's go around the horn and tell us what you're thankful for this year, and tell us one goal for next year, so that we can, next December, we can go to Lynn, Phil, and David and say, I'm going to hold you to that goal. Did you accomplish it? So I'm going to start with you, Lynn. Tell us something you're thankful for this year, and tell us one goal you want to reach next year that you're willing to give to the
I'm
public.
generally thankful for, I'm extremely fortunate. I'm thankful for my job. I'm in good health, and I have great family and friends. So I'm always very thankful for how fortunate I am. And I would say my goal for next year is just to, you know, acquire as many properties that fit my criteria. I just keep moving forward. Every year I just move forward.
Okay. Phil?
You want my real goal? You want me to manufacture one?
No, I want
My
your
real goal would be to sit on a beach all of next year and do absolutely zero. That would be my real goal. I mean, I could, but I won't. But probably as a goal, I'd probably say, to really focus in on raising money. And as far as things to be thankful for, I have too many to mention, but I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my lifestyle. I'm thankful that we finished this project because that really took a bite out of me.
What's the minimum amount next December of money raised? If we can look back on it and say, I raised that amount of money, it was successful. So let's put an amount on it.
No, I don't want to be put on the spot, man.
Okay. So would you be happy with 500,000?
See, you're playing that game where you give me a number so we can get a number, but no, I'm not going to put a number on it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I tried. Okay, David, go ahead. What's going to be in your book is that number one goal for next year that you want to put out there to the world?
Florida House Buyers is a 7-figure real estate company. That's the number one thing I write every single day, man. Well, minus the last 2 weeks. That's what drives me to be able to create and expand, man. It's a great driving force for me.
And what are you thankful for?
So and it's one of those things, right? It should be a multitude of things, man. I try writing in that journal. So a little tidbit for people. I try writing 3 things I'm grateful for every single day. So it gives me a different perspective of things. And I try not putting the same things like a roof over my head or, like I'm healthy today. Like, of course, those are always great things, especially in this kind of day and age where you can take a lot of things for granted. But I mean, I would say that it's been great to really deepen a lot of relationships. I think me and my wife got a lot closer this year as well. We've been able to grow the team. We've been able to stay healthy. My parents moved a lot closer here, so I see them a lot more often. Yeah, so we are able to get them over to New Smyrna. So now, originally they're in South Florida, and now they're here. So we get to see them for like Sunday afternoons, and it's great. So it's been a very deepening experience here for 2020, and it allows you to take perspective of a lot of different things.
Okay. So my goal is, although I won't be president after the next 27 days, my goal is, to get CFRI back into regular meetings as soon as possible. So if hopefully I can help the new board, if any way, shape or form I can do that, that'd be great. I'd like to take this time right now. Buffy, could you please turn on your video? Mike, if you're listening, I want everybody to thank Buffy for being Mrs. Zoom. She's the person who puts out all these Zoom calls, and we couldn't do it without Buffy. She sits in her little tunnel at her home and has to put up with me and all the other board members, all the other group members. I really want to take the time to thank her. So her email, if you appreciate Buffy, her email is executive@cfri.net. Please send her an email and tell her how much we appreciate her, because we couldn't do any of this without her. I'm not a techie, even though I know SAO and I know pay-per-click and I know computers. I'm not technologically advanced. So Buffy takes all that away from us having to do that. And I just wanted to thank her publicly. So I'm wishing Buffy a healthy and happy next year, and that the board, Jay Spann, if you didn't know, Jay Spann is the new president. Let me go ahead.
Nice.
We didn't say it. We were going to put a screen up, but our new board is Jay Spann, president, Stephen Young, vice president, Chad Schultz is the new secretary, and Greg Bond is going to remain as a treasurer. Then we have 9 board members, and we haven't picked the other positions yet. That's another week away. Mari Lynch, who you met, David, who is on the call, Peter Lopez is staying on the board. Also, Mark Johnston, the Lake County group leader, and Phil is a new board member. So we have probably one of the best boards I think I've seen since I've been at CFRI, I think, for next year. I think it's going to be exciting. There's Steven's picture. There's Jay's picture. So thank you all.
Actually, Jay's live.
I'm here. Absolutely.
And so this isn't the last meeting of the year, but it's the last May meeting. So I wanted to make sure we thanked the new board and the old board. And most importantly, thank Buffy for all she does, because we would have gone to just nothingness if it were not for Buffy. So I appreciate her. I hope all of y'all appreciate her. And please take the time to email her or text her or whatever you want to do. But thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's been a great year. It's been a crazy year. Next year is going to be phenomenal. Make sure you set some type of learning goal. That's my
Absolutely.
goal. I want you to set some type of learning goal for next year of something you want to become better at, and make sure that you take advantages of many CFRI opportunities as you can, because we have great teachers, we have great presenters, and we have great group leaders. Please don't, if you're sitting out there and you're scared to do something, call one of us. One of us is going to help you. I guarantee you, somebody in this group has been in the same situation you are, and they can help you. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Buffy, do you have anything before we leave?
No, tomorrow night we have, hang on, I'm feeding back here. We have Volusia County. We're doing a special, different date. Chad, you want to open your mic up just real quick and talk about Volusia?
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Tomorrow night, because our meetings are usually towards the end of the month. So in November, of course, we would have fallen over Thanksgiving, and in December, we fall over the Christmas holiday. So we tend to have one meeting that combines those 2 months. That'll be tomorrow night. We'll have Art there that will do our real estate update that we typically have, keep, tabs on the market. And Devin will actually be hosting tomorrow night. I have another event to attend, but we're going to do like a haves and wants type meeting. That went over really well last time. That was a couple of months back that we did that. And so we'll do that again tomorrow. We got a lot of great feedback from that. Everybody's invited. Be a lot of interaction, a lot of group interaction back and forth, and we like everybody to participate. So tomorrow night about 6 o'clock or so, maybe get on a little bit early, and we'll see you there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming, and y'all have a great evening.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great evening. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Everybody have a great evening. Y'all have a great day.
Hey, Todd.